Karen took a deep breath before answering the Chancellor's question. I propose we form a unified first contact fleet, not a war fleet, but a diplomatic mission with sufficient military escort to ensure safety. We approach them peacefully, offer friendship, and show them that the accord represents cooperation, not conquest. And if they respond with hostility? Asked Counselor Prithna. Then we defend ourselves, Karen replied firmly. Just as we always have, but this time we defend together. An attack on the first contact fleet would be an attack on all Accord members. They would face the combined forces of over 100 species. The debate lasted for hours, but eventually the Council agreed. A unified fleet would be assembled, with ships from dozens of Accord members. It would carry diplomats, scientists, and cultural representatives. And if necessary, it would carry enough military force to protect itself. 3 months later, the fleet gathered at the edge of known space. It was a sight unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human dreadnoughts flew in formation with Zalthrian cruisers, Kelvari carriers, Yothian science vessels, and ships from 100 other species. Each vessel bore the Accord symbol alongside their own national emblems. Captain Jake Morrison, now promoted to Admiral after his victory over the Hectarians, commanded the human contingent. But he shared command authority with senior officers from 3 other species. The flagship's bridge was a marvel of cooperation, with beings from different worlds working side by side at integrated stations. All ships report ready, announced Commander Trinval, a Yothian serving as tactical officer. His translated voice was calm and professional. Then let's go meet our new neighbors, Jake said, and let's hope they choose friendship. But if they choose war, they will learn what a united galaxy can accomplish. The fleet jumped to faster-than-light speed, disappearing from known space and heading toward the unknown. Back on Earth, life continued to change in ways that would have seemed impossible just a few years earlier. The planet that had once been isolated now welcomed visitors from across the galaxy. Alien tourists walked through human cities, marveling at architecture designed for heavy gravity and aggressive weather. Human travelers journeyed to worlds with purple skies and floating cities. In San Francisco, a Kelvari engineer worked alongside human scientists to build better fusion reactors. In Beijing, a Zalthrian military advisor taught defensive tactics to Earth's Space Force Academy. In London, a Yothian artist collaborated with human painters to create works that combined both cultures. Colonel Linda Harper, now retired from active military service, sat on a terrace overlooking the bay. Beside her sat Admiral Vector, also retired. They had become close friends over the years, meeting regularly to discuss galactic affairs and share stories. Do you remember the first time we met? Linda asked. I came into the council chamber to warn everyone not to attack humans. I was so nervous, Vector made a sound that his translator rendered as laughter. You did not look nervous. You looked dangerous. Half the council thought you might attack someone. The other half was too scared to move. And now look at us, Linda said, gesturing at the peaceful scene around them. Ships from a dozen species moved through Earth's orbit. Alien beings walked the streets below. We went from enemies to allies in less than 3 years. Your species did that, Vector told her. You proved that the most dangerous beings can also be the most trustworthy. You showed restraint when you could have shown cruelty. You offered friendship when you could have demanded submission. That changed everything. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant colors. Finally, Linda spoke again. Do you think it will last? The peace, the cooperation? Or will something tear it all apart? Vector considered the question carefully. There will always be conflicts. Different species have different needs and values. But I think what we have built is strong enough to survive, not because it is perfect, but because everyone remembers the alternative. We remember the Coalition War. We remember the thousands who died. We remember how close we came to a galaxy-wide conflict that could have destroyed everything. He gestured at the peaceful scene before them. This is worth protecting. And your species taught us that protection does not always require violence. Sometimes it just requires being willing to stand together and say no to aggression. Linda raised her glass, filled with a Zalthrian beverage that tasted like honey and starlight. To standing together, then, and to the most unlikely friendship in galactic history. Vector raised his own glass. To humanity, the species that proved even Deathworlders can choose peace. They drank, and watched the stars emerge as darkness fell. Far away at the Grand Council, Ambassador Karen Pierce was preparing for another historic vote. The accord had grown so successful that many councilors now believed it should become the foundation for a new galactic government. Not an empire or dictatorship, but a federation where every species had a voice and every world was protected. The proposal before you, Karen explained to the assembled representatives, is to transform the accord into the Galactic Federation. It would maintain all the existing protections and benefits while adding new mechanisms for coordinated scientific research, economic development, and cultural preservation. Most importantly, she continued, the Federation would have the authority to prevent wars before they start, not through force but through arbitration, mediation, and when necessary, collective security guarantees. No species would be powerful enough to threaten others. No world would be vulnerable enough to be easily conquered. The debate was intense. Some species worried about losing sovereignty. Others feared that large empires would dominate smaller ones. Many had questions about how the Federation would be governed, who would make decisions, and how to ensure fairness. But gradually, through months of discussion and negotiation, a framework emerged. The Federation would have a rotating presidency, with each member species taking a turn at leadership. Decisions would require supermajority votes, ensuring that no single empire could impose its will. Military forces would remain under national control, but could be coordinated for mutual defense. And perhaps most importantly, any member could leave the Federation voluntarily, ensuring that membership was always by choice, not coercion. When the final vote came, nearly 200 species voted to join the Federation. Only a handful refused, preferring to remain independent. But even those independent species signed non-aggression pacts and trade agreements with the Federation, recognizing the benefits of cooperation. 20 years after humanity first encountered the galactic community, Fleet Marshal Kelvin Stone stood in the same command center where he had fought the Battle of Earth. But now the view was very different. The orbital defense station still maintained its weapons and readiness, but it no longer stood alone. Around Earth, ships from 100 species patrolled peacefully, their presence a symbol of friendship rather than threat. Admiral Cole, Kelvin said to his longtime second-in-command, I am officially retiring today. You will take command of Earth's defense forces. Patricia nodded, her expression a mix of pride and sadness. You have earned your rest, sir. You saved humanity and then helped build the peace. History will remember you well. History can say what it wants, Kelvin replied with a slight smile. I am just glad I lived long enough to see humans and aliens working together instead of fighting. That was worth all the sleepless nights and close calls. He looked down at Earth one last time from his command post. The blue and green planet turned peacefully below, home to billions who would never know how close they had come to annihilation. The weapons that had saved humanity still existed, still ready, but hopefully never needed again. You know what the secret was? Kelvin said suddenly. The secret to everything we accomplished? What was that, sir? Patricia asked. We never forgot what we were capable of, Kelvin explained. We never pretended to be peaceful philosophers who rejected violence. We embraced what we were, Deathworlders who knew how to fight and win, but we also chose to use that capability in service of protection, rather than conquest. That made all the difference. Patricia understood. We were honest about our nature and our power. That honesty built trust more effectively than any amount of pretending to be harmless. Exactly, Kelvin agreed. The galaxy learned not to attack humans because we proved we could destroy anyone who tried. But they also learned to trust humans because we proved we would only use that power in defense, never aggression. Fear and trust together. That is what makes the Federation work. He saluted Patricia one final time, and she returned the salute crisply. Then Kelvin Stone, the man who had saved Earth and helped build a galactic federation, walked away to enjoy his retirement. The unified First Contact fleet returned 6 months later with remarkable news. The unknown civilization beyond the Outer Rim was indeed advanced and initially suspicious. But when they saw ships from hundreds of species working together peacefully, when they learned about the Federation and its principles, they chose to join rather than fight. The galaxy continued to grow and evolve. New species were discovered and welcomed. Old conflicts were resolved through Federation mediation. Scientific breakthroughs improved life for billions. 6 months had passed since the Battle of Earth. The Grand Council chamber looked different now. More species had sent representatives, drawn by curiosity about the humans who had defeated the largest fleet in galactic history, and for the first time, humans had a permanent seat in the council as full members. Ambassador Karen Pierce stood at the podium that now belonged to Earth. She was in her 40s, with brown hair and calm eyes that missed nothing. She had spent 20 years in diplomatic service on Earth, negotiating between nations that had been enemies for centuries. Now she used those same skills on a galactic stage. "Thank you, Chancellor Mektara," Karen began. 6 months ago, 23 empires declared war on humanity. Today, those same empires are here not as enemies, but as potential partners. That transformation is what I want to discuss. She activated a holographic display showing statistics. The Battle of Earth resulted in the destruction of over 2,000 coalition vessels. Approximately 300,000 lives were lost on the coalition side. Human casualties were 47 killed and 214 wounded. I present these numbers not to celebrate but to establish a fact. Humanity has military capabilities that make us extremely dangerous. A murmur ran through the chamber. Some counselors shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The numbers were even worse than many had realized. But here is what matters most, Karen continued. We could have killed everyone in that fleet. Our weapons could have prevented any survivors. We chose not to. We let ships retreat. We let crews survive, because we do not want to be killers. We want to be partners. Counselor Prithna spoke up. Ambassador Pierce, you speak of partnership, but many of us still fear your military power. How can we trust you? Karen nodded. That is a fair question. Trust must be earned, and we understand that, which is why Admiral Vector and I have spent the last 6 months developing something we call the Mutual Defense and Cooperation Accord. Admiral Vector stepped forward to join her. The accord is based on a simple principle. Species that sign it agree to defend each other, to share certain technologies, and most importantly, to resolve disputes through diplomacy before considering military action. The holographic display changed to show the accord structure. It was a complex document with hundreds of provisions, but the core ideas were straightforward. Mutual defense, technology sharing, diplomatic dispute resolution, trade agreements, cultural exchange programs. Why would humanity share military technology? Asked a counselor from the Yothian Concordat. That would give away your advantage. Because our advantage is not just technology, Karen replied. It is training, tactics, and doctrine. We are willing to teach defensive strategies to species that join the accord, but with conditions. First, the training can only be used for defense, never aggression. Second, species receiving training must commit to defending other accord members. Third, any act of aggression by an accord member results in immediate expulsion and loss of all benefits. You are creating an alliance system, observed Counselor Drethnor. He had returned to the council as a civilian after his military disgrace. That could divide the galaxy, or unite it, Vector countered. The current system has no way to stop powerful empires from attacking weaker ones. The council can pass resolutions, but it cannot enforce them. The accord changes that. Attack an accord member and you face the combined military forces of all signatories. High Chancellor Mektara leaned forward in her seat. This accord would limit human military action. You would need approval from other members before deploying your most powerful weapons. Why would you accept such restrictions? Karen smiled slightly. Because trust has to start somewhere, Chancellor. We know you fear our power. Some of that fear is justified. We are offering to limit ourselves voluntarily, with verification systems that other species can monitor. We are putting our weapons under shared authority. That should prove our peaceful intentions. The debate continued for hours. Counselors raised objections and proposed changes. Some worried about giving humans too much influence. Others worried about not having enough protection from aggressive empires. Slowly, through discussion and compromise, the accord took its final shape. When High Chancellor Mektara finally called for a vote, the chamber fell silent. This was a historic moment. The vote would determine whether the galaxy moved toward cooperation or remained fractured and fearful. One by one, lights appeared on the voting board. Some empires voted immediately. Others hesitated, their representatives consulting with home governments through faster-than-light communications. The tension in the chamber grew as the count climbed higher. Finally, the results appeared. 83 empires voted in favor. 19 voted against. 12 abstained. wanting to wait and see how the accord worked before committing. The accord had passed. Karen felt relief wash through her, but she kept her face neutral and professional. On behalf of humanity, I thank this council. This is the beginning of a new era for all of us. But I want to be very clear about something. She looked around the chamber, meeting as many eyes as she could. This accord is not about human dominance. Every species here has unique strengths. The Kelvari are brilliant engineers. The Yothians create artificial intelligence that surpasses our own. The Zolthrians are master tacticians. Humanity contributes military expertise, but that is just one piece of a larger puzzle. Together we can build something unprecedented. Admiral Vector spoke next. I fought humans before I knew them. I feared them because I did not understand them. Now I count many humans as friends. They are what they appear to be, dangerous but honorable, violent but not cruel. They keep their promises even when those promises are difficult. That is why I support this accord. The session ended shortly after. As counselors filed out, many approached Karen to speak privately. Some wanted to discuss joining the accord. Others had questions about human technology. A few simply wanted to thank her for giving the galaxy a path forward after the disaster of the Coalition War. Drethner was among those who approached. The former military commander looked diminished somehow, his crystalline form less bright than it had been. Ambassador Pierce, I owe you an apology. I led the attack on your world because I believed you were a threat. I was right about the threat but wrong about what to do about it. I should have sought friendship instead of war. Karen studied him for a moment. Your apology is appreciated, Counselor. But what matters now is what we do next. Your empire lost thousands of lives because of the war. How can we make sure that sacrifice leads to something better? My government has authorized me to inform you that the Vaxian Collective wishes to be among the first signatories to the accord. Drethnor said. We have learned that we cannot defeat humanity through force. Perhaps we can learn from you instead. We would be honored to have your people as partners, Karen replied. And perhaps you can teach us as well. Your crystal technology is fascinating. I am sure our scientists would love to learn from your engineers. After Drethnor left, Admiral Vector joined Karen. That went better than I expected. 83 empires is an excellent start. It is, Karen agreed. But the real work begins now. We have to show that the accord actually works. That means responding to the first crisis quickly and effectively. That means sharing technology without giving away too much too fast. That means building trust through actions, not just words. My people have a saying, Vector told her. The first step of a long journey is always the hardest. Today we took that step together. Back on Earth, Fleet Marshal Kelvin Stone watched the Council proceedings through a live video feed. Around him, the Orbital Defense Station continued its mission. Weapons ready but hopefully never needed again. Admiral Cole, he said to his second-in-command, begin the process of selecting officers for the training program. We will need our best people to teach defensive tactics to Accord members and make sure they understand something important. What is that, sir? Patricia asked. We are not just teaching them how to fight, Kelvin said. We are teaching them when not to fight. We are teaching them restraint, honor, and the value of choosing diplomacy over violence. That is going to be harder than teaching weapons systems and tactics. Patricia nodded. I understand, sir. I will make sure the instructors know their full responsibilities. Over the following weeks, the accord began to take practical shape. Human military advisors traveled to allied worlds setting up training programs. Kelvari engineers visited Earth to share their advanced manufacturing techniques. Yothian artificial intelligence specialists began collaborating with human computer scientists. Zolthrian tacticians exchanged ideas with Earth's military academies. Trade routes opened between Accord members. Ships that had once been enemies now docked at each other's stations peacefully. Cultural exchange programs brought young beings from dozens of species to study on other worlds. Slowly, carefully, the Accord members began to see each other not as aliens but as partners. Not everything went smoothly. There were disputes about technology sharing. Some species wanted more than others were willing to give. There were arguments about how to respond to threats from non-Accord empires. Some members wanted aggressive action while others counseled patience. But every time a dispute arose, the Coalition fleet gathered at the edge of Vaxian space, and it was the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. 3,214 ships hung in the void, their hulls reflecting starlight. Battleships the size of mountains floated alongside carriers and destroyers. 23 different empires had contributed vessels, each one convinced that humanity needed to be taught a lesson. Fleet Marshal Kelvin Stone watched the approaching armada from Earth's orbital defense station. He was 60 years old, with gray hair and a face marked by old scars. He had fought in wars before humans ever left their planet. He had seen the worst that humanity could do to itself. Now he would show the galaxy what humans could do when properly motivated. "Final count?" he asked without looking away from the tactical display. Admiral Patricia Cole stood beside him. She was younger but equally experienced, with sharp eyes and quick reflexes. 3,214 confirmed vessels. At least 200 are Dreadnought class. They will reach our outer defensive perimeter in 72 hours. Kelvin nodded slowly. "Activate all defensive platforms. Every mine, every satellite weapon, every drone we have built. If they want Earth, they will pay for every meter of space they cross." A young officer approached nervously. "Sir, we are receiving a transmission from the Coalition fleet. They are demanding our surrender." "Put it through." The holographic display showed Fleet Commander Deathworlder. The Vaxian's crystalline body glowed with confidence. "Admiral Stone, I am authorized to accept your unconditional surrender. Your species has threatened galactic peace long enough. Submit to Council authority and disband your military, or face complete destruction." Kelvin smiled, but it was not a pleasant expression. "Let me understand this correctly. You have assembled the largest war fleet in galactic history. You have traveled all the way to my home system. And now you are giving me 1 day to surrender before you attack. Is that correct?" "Mock all you wish," Deathworlder replied. "Your arrogance will not save you. You cannot defeat this fleet." "You are right about one thing," Kelvin said. "I probably cannot defeat your fleet, but I can hurt you badly enough that the rest of the galaxy learns never to threaten Earth again. You have made a mistake, Commander. You have gathered all your forces in one place. That makes my job much easier." Deathworlder's confidence flickered. "You are bluffing, am I?" Kelvin leaned forward. "You know what your problem is? You think in terms of traditional warfare. Line up ships, exchange fire, strongest side wins. But humans do not fight that way. We have spent 10,000 years learning how to kill things bigger and stronger than us. We are very creative when it comes to solving that kind of problem." He gestured, and the display changed to show Earth's defensive network. Layers upon layers of weapons platforms, hidden mines, automated drones, and systems that the Coalition could not identify. "This is just what I am willing to show you. The real surprises are still hidden. So please, by all means, attack. My people need the practice." The transmission ended. Deathworlder's face disappeared. Admiral Cole looked at Kelvin with concern. "Do you really think we can stop them, sir?" "No," Kelvin admitted. "Not all of them. But we will make them regret coming here. We will hurt them so badly that no one will ever threaten Earth again. That is what matters." 72 hours later, the Coalition fleet crossed into Earth's outer defensive zone. The first wave of mines detonated immediately. These were not small explosives. Each one was a thermonuclear device positioned in clusters that created overlapping fields of destruction. In the first 10 seconds, 47 ships were destroyed. Deathworlder watched from his command ship in shock. How did they mine this much space? It should have taken years. His tactical officer worked frantically at his console. "Sir," detecting hundreds more mines ahead. "They have seeded the entire approach vector with nuclear devices." "All ships, evasive maneuvers," Deathworlder ordered. "Point defense systems, target and destroy any mines in our path." The Coalition fleet scattered, trying to avoid the minefields. But that was exactly what Kelvin wanted. A tight formation could provide mutual defense. A scattered formation was vulnerable. "All platforms, weapons free," Kelvin ordered from his command station. "Show them what we have been building." Throughout the solar system, weapons that had been hidden for years came to life. What the Coalition had thought were asteroids suddenly revealed themselves as massive railgun platforms. What had seemed like dead satellites were actually laser weapons powered by solar collectors. What had looked like space debris were missile pods filled with smart weapons. The Coalition fleet found itself under attack from every direction. Tungsten slugs moving at incredible speed tore through shields and armor. Lasers cut through hulls like knives through paper. Missiles with artificial intelligence hunted their targets with relentless efficiency. "This is impossible," Deathworlder shouted as another wave of his ships died. How did they build all this? Where did they get the resources? What he did not understand was that humans had been preparing for this moment since first contact with alien species. Every nation on Earth had contributed resources. Every factory had worked overtime. Every scientist had focused on one question. How do we defend our home planet against superior numbers? From Earth's moon, the secret weapon activated. It was a mass driver 50 kilometers long, built into a lunar crater. It had taken 20 years and consumed resources that could have built 100 warships. But now it proved its worth. The mass driver launched tungsten rods, each one several tons of solid metal accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed. At that velocity, they carried kinetic energy equivalent to nuclear weapons, and the mass driver fired one every 3 seconds. Coalition ships simply disintegrated when hit. Their shields meant nothing. Their armor meant nothing. Pure kinetic force struck them like the hammer of an angry god. "Retreat," Drethnor ordered. "All ships fall back to defensive positions." But Kelvin was not done. "Deploy the drones. Full deployment, all types." From hidden bays on every human station and ship, millions of small drones poured forth. They were no larger than cars, equipped with simple weapons and basic artificial intelligence. But there were so many of them that they looked like a swarm of angry insects. The Coalition fleet's point defense systems lit up, trying to shoot down the drones. But for every drone they destroyed, 10 more took its place. The drones moved in coordinated patterns, overwhelming defenses through sheer numbers. When they reached Coalition ships, they attached themselves to hulls and detonated, punching small holes that grew into catastrophic damage as atmosphere vented and systems failed. "Sir, we have lost over 1,000 ships," Drethnor's tactical officer reported. His voice trembled. 30% of our fleet is gone. Recommend immediate withdrawal." "No," Drethnor roared. "We still outnumber them. All ships close to engagement range. We will destroy them in direct combat." It was exactly the desperate move that Kelvin had anticipated. "They are committing to a close approach. Execute Protocol Ragnarok." From Earth's orbital stations, 12 large missiles launched. They moved slowly compared to other human weapons, and the Coalition barely registered them as threats. That was intentional. Each missile was equipped with a prototype faster-than-light drive and an antimatter warhead. When the Coalition fleet tried to retreat using FTL jumps, the missiles followed. When the fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at what they thought was a safe distance, the Ragnarok missiles were waiting. They detonated simultaneously. Matter met antimatter in perfect annihilation, creating brief stars that consumed everything within 1,000 kilometers. 700 more Coalition ships died instantly. The remaining vessels scattered in complete panic. Their formation was broken. Their morale was shattered. Their confidence was destroyed. Kelvin opened a channel to the surviving Coalition ships. His face appeared on their screens, tired but determined. "The war is over. Return to your homeworlds. Tell your leaders what happened here. Tell them that Earth is off limits. Tell them that if they ever threaten us again, we will not just destroy their fleets. We will follow them home and show them what total war truly means. But also tell them this," Kelvin continued. "We do not want to be your enemy. We never did. This war was forced upon us. We will not hold grudges against species that choose peace from this point forward. The door to friendship is still open, but it will only stay open if you make the right choice." The transmission ended. The Coalition fleet limped away, leaving behind wreckage and bodies. Of the 3,000 ships that had approached Earth, fewer than 500 remained functional. Admiral Cole stood beside Kelvin, watching the tactical display clear. "We did it. We actually did it. At a cost," Kelvin replied quietly. 47 of our people died today. 12 defensive platforms destroyed, hundreds wounded. Every life lost is a tragedy. But we saved Earth, we saved humanity. And maybe, just maybe, we taught the galaxy a lesson that will prevent future wars. He turned to face his command staff. "Deploy stealth drones to follow the retreating ships. I want them monitored at all times. If any of those empires start gathering forces again, I want to know immediately. We won this battle, but the war for humanity's place in the galaxy is just beginning." Patricia nodded. The Grand Council chamber was in chaos. Councilors shouted at each other in dozens of languages. Some demanded war. Others begged for peace. The news of the Hectarian defeat had spread across the galaxy like wildfire, and now everyone had an opinion about what should be done about the humans. High Chancellor Mektara struck her staff against the crystal floor 3 times. The sound echoed through the chamber like thunder. "Order! We will have order in this council." Slowly the shouting died down. Councilors returned to their seats, though many still muttered angrily to their neighbors. The Chancellor looked around the room with tired eyes. She had served on this council for 50 years and had never seen it so divided. "Admiral Vector," she said, "you warned us about the humans." We did not listen. Commander Zarkun acted against council advice and paid a terrible price. What do you recommend we do now? Vector stood, his 4 eyes scanning the assembled representatives. I recommend peace. Immediate contact with the human government. We should offer trade, cultural exchange, and friendship. Humans are dangerous, yes, but they have also shown restraint. They could have destroyed the entire Hectarian fleet. Instead, they let survivors go home. That shows wisdom and mercy. Mercy? Shouted Counselor Drethnor of the Vaxian Collective. He was a being made of living crystal that reflected light in angry red patterns. They destroyed 100 ships. They killed thousands. You call that mercy? Yes, Vector replied calmly. Because they could have killed millions. Think about it. If humans had wanted to destroy the Hectarian Empire, they could have followed the retreating ships home and attacked their worlds. They chose not to. That tells us something important about their character, or it tells us they are smart enough to hide their true intentions. Drethnor countered. I propose we form a coalition fleet. Every empire contributes ships. We gather a force so large that even human tricks cannot defeat it. We show them that they must submit to galactic authority or be destroyed. Some counselors nodded in agreement. Others shook their heads. The division in the chamber was growing deeper with every passing moment. High Chancellor Mektara was about to speak when a guard at the door announced something unexpected. High Chancellor, there is a human at the entrance. She requests permission to address the council. The chamber fell silent. A human here, in the council chambers. It was unprecedented. Let her enter, Mektara decided. If we are to discuss humans, we might as well hear from one directly. The doors opened and Colonel Linda Harper walked in. She wore a crisp military uniform with insignia and medals. Her dark hair was pulled back in a simple style. She walked with confidence but not arrogance, her eyes taking in the chamber and its hundreds of alien occupants. I am Colonel Linda Harper of the United Earth Defense Force, she said. Her words were translated by a device at her collar. I understand that you are discussing whether to declare war on my species. I would like to save you some time and trouble. She walked to the center of the chamber, standing in the same spot where Admiral Vector had given his warning months ago. First, let me be clear. Humanity does not want war with the galactic community. We are new to space. We are excited to meet other species, to learn about your cultures, to trade and share knowledge. Earth has many problems, and we hoped that contact with advanced civilizations would help us solve them. But, she continued, her voice growing harder, we will not be conquered. We will not bow down to threats, and we will not allow anyone to attack us without defending ourselves. The Hectarian Empire learned this lesson. I hope the rest of you can learn it without paying the same price. Drethnor stood up, his crystal body reflecting light in aggressive patterns. You speak of defense, but your forces destroyed an entire fleet. You killed thousands. How do you justify such violence? Linda turned to face him. They attacked us. We sent warnings. We tried diplomacy. They ignored all of it and opened fire on our ships. What would you have us do? Let ourselves be slaughtered? Would any species in this chamber accept that? She activated a holographic projector and showed an image of Earth. This is our home. Gravity here is 1G, which would crush most of you. Our air contains 21% oxygen, which is poisonous to many species. Our weather creates hurricanes, tornadoes, and monsoons that can destroy cities. We have earthquakes, volcanoes, and tsunamis, and this is all before considering the animals that hunt us, the diseases that kill us, and the plants that poison us. The counselors stared at the image, many seeing Earth for the first time. It looked beautiful from space, but the data scrolling beside the image told a different story. Temperature extremes that would kill most galactic species, pressure variations that would rupture delicate organs, a magnetic field so strong it affected navigation equipment. We evolved there, Linda said quietly. Every human you will ever meet survived because their ancestors were tough enough, smart enough, and lucky enough to live through 4 billion years on that planet. We did not choose to be strong. We did not decide to be aggressive. That is just what it took to survive. But, she continued, we also learned cooperation. We built cities and nations. We created art and music. We wrote poetry and philosophy. We learned to work together to solve problems. That is human nature too. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of as many counselors as she could. So here is my offer. Leave us alone and we will leave you alone. Trade with us fairly and we will trade fairly back. Share your knowledge and we will share ours. But attack us, and you will learn why humans have survived on a planet that tried to kill us every single day of our existence. Is that a threat? Asked High Chancellor Mektara. No, Chancellor, Linda replied. It is a fact. We do not make threats. We make promises, and we keep them. Counselor Prithna, who had laughed at Vekthor's warning so many months ago, spoke up. What if we vote for peace but some empires choose war anyway? Will you hold all of us responsible? No, Linda said. We understand that this council does not control every species in the galaxy. If some empires choose war, we will fight only those empires. We will not punish species that want peace just because others want conflict. That would be unjust. What about revenge? Another counselor asked. The Hectarians attacked you. Will you seek revenge against them? Linda shook her head. The Hectarians paid for their mistake already. They lost most of their fleet and thousands of lives. Their commander was humiliated. That is enough. We see no reason to continue punishing them unless they attack us again. Revenge is expensive and accomplishes nothing useful. Admiral Vekthor stepped forward to stand beside Linda. The Colonel speaks truth. I have studied human history through their broadcasts and communications. They are a species that can forgive enemies and turn them into friends. After great wars on their own planet, former enemies became close allies. That is a rare quality in the galaxy. It is also a dangerous quality, Drethnor argued. It means they think differently than we do. It makes them unpredictable. Perhaps, Vekthor agreed, but I would rather have unpredictable allies than predictable enemies. High Chancellor Mektara stood. This council will vote on 2 resolutions. First, whether to establish peaceful diplomatic relations with Earth. Second, whether to form a coalition fleet to enforce galactic authority over human space. You have 3 days to consult with your governments and decide. This session is adjourned. As the counselors filed out, many approached Linda to speak with her privately. Some were curious. Others were hostile. A few seemed genuinely interested in friendship. Admiral Vekthor stayed beside her, providing introductions and context. You did well, he told her. You were honest without being aggressive. You showed strength without making threats. That is exactly what was needed. Will it be enough? Linda asked. Will they choose peace? Some will, Vekthor said. Others will not. The galaxy is about to divide into 2 camps, those who accept humans and those who see you as a threat that must be eliminated. I fear the coming days will be difficult. Linda looked out at the stars through the chamber's massive windows. My people have a saying. We did not start the fire, but we will end it. If some empires choose war, they will learn what humans do when we are truly threatened. 3 days later, the vote came. 54 empires chose peace and diplomatic relations. 23 chose war. 12 abstained, wanting to wait and see which side would prevail. The galaxy was splitting apart, and humanity stood at the center of the divide. The question now was not whether there would be more war, but how bad that war would become. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UHS Valiant, his eyes fixed on the screen showing the space around his ship. He was a tall man with short brown hair going gray at the temples. Years of military service had given him a calm presence that steadied his crew during dangerous moments. Around him, men and women worked at their stations, their fingers moving quickly across glowing displays. Captain, we have multiple contacts, said Lieutenant Amy Brooks from the sensor station. She was young but sharp, with quick reflexes and a good eye for detail. They just dropped out of faster-than-light travel. Reading Hectarian signatures. I count 120 vessels, Jake nodded slowly. He had expected this. Earth's intelligence services had been tracking the Hectarian fleet for 2 days. They knew the aliens were coming and they had prepared. Send them a message on all frequencies. Tell them they still have time to turn around. Tell them we do not want war, but we will defend ourselves. Ensign Chris Palmer worked the communications panel. He was nervous, his hands shaking slightly as he typed. This was his first real combat situation. Message sent, sir. No response. They are forming attack formations. Jake walked to the center of the bridge, his boots making soft sounds on the metal floor. All right. Power up all weapons. Bring shields to maximum. Signal the rest of the fleet. Tell them to execute Plan Delta 7. Around the Valiant, 11 other human warships began to move. They were smaller than the Hectarian vessels, built for speed and flexibility rather than raw power. But what they lacked in size, they made up for in technology and tactics. Commander Lisa Grant sat at the weapons station. She was a veteran of many battles with steady hands and a sharp mind. Weapons ready, sir. Railguns charged. Missile tubes loaded. Targeting systems locked on the enemy flagship. Hold fire until they cross the red line, Jake ordered. The red line was an invisible boundary around Earth's outer planets. Cross it and you were declaring war. The Hectarian fleet kept coming. Zarkun stood on his own bridge watching the tiny human ships with contempt. They were so small compared to his mighty warships. He had 120 vessels to their 12. Victory was certain. All ships prepare to fire. We will destroy them quickly and move on to their home planet. Let this be a lesson to any species that thinks they can defy the Hectarian Empire. His tactical officer hesitated. Sir, they are launching something. Small objects, thousands of them. Probably escape pods, Zarkun said with a laugh. They are running already. Destroy them all. But they were not escape pods. They were drones, small robotic ships controlled by artificial intelligence. Each one was barely larger than a car, equipped with basic weapons and simple computers. The Hectarian fleet saw them coming and opened fire with their point defense systems. Explosions lit up space as hundreds of drones were destroyed. Zarkun smiled. See? They waste their ammunition on toys. Continue the advance, that was exactly what Jake wanted. While the Hectarians focused on the drones, shooting thousands of rounds of ammunition at targets that cost almost nothing to build, the real weapons moved into position. Railguns ready, Lisa reported. Target acquired. Waiting for your command, sir. Fire, Jake said quietly. The Valiant shuddered as massive electromagnetic rails launched tungsten carbide slugs at incredible speed. These were not energy weapons that could be seen coming. They were solid metal moving at a significant fraction of the speed of light. By the time the Hectarians detected them, there was less than a second to react. The slugs hit Zarkun's flagship like the fist of an angry god. They punched through shields that were designed to stop energy weapons. They tore through armor that had protected Hectarian ships for generations. They ripped into the ship's core, destroying reactors and fuel systems. What happened? Zarkun screamed as his bridge filled with smoke and alarms. Report!
Direct hit.
Multiple hull breaches. We are losing power across all systems. His tactical officer shouted over the noise of dying equipment, but Jake was not finished. Deploy the smart missiles. Authorization code Morrison 7 Alpha. From the human ships, hundreds of missiles launched. These were not normal explosives. Each one had a small but powerful computer brain that allowed it to think, to hunt, to adapt. They moved through space faster than the Hectarian ships could track, dodging defensive fire with ease. When they reached the enemy fleet, they did something unexpected. Instead of exploding on contact, they burrowed into the hulls like metal insects. They crawled through corridors and conduits, seeking out the most important systems. When they found the reactor cores, they attached themselves to the shielding and waited. Sir, the enemy missiles have penetrated our hulls but have not exploded, a Hectarian officer reported in confusion. I do not understand what they are doing. Then Jake gave the command he had been waiting to give. Detonate. All at once, hundreds of electromagnetic pulse charges went off inside the Hectarian ships. The pulses fried electrical systems, shut down computers, and disabled weapons. In seconds, 80% of the enemy fleet went dark and silent, floating helplessly in space. Zarkun stared at his dead control panels in shock. Nothing worked. The lights were off. Life support was failing. His mighty flagship was now just a large piece of metal drifting in space. How is this possible? Sir, recommend immediate retreat, his second officer said from emergency lighting. We have lost most of the fleet. If we stay, they will destroy us all. But pride and anger clouded Zarkun's judgment. No, we still have ships that are functional. Order all remaining vessels to charge at the humans. We will ram them if we must. We will crush them with our mass. The order went out to the 40 ships that still had power. They accelerated toward the human fleet, determined to win through sheer force and desperation. Jake watched them come. They are committing to a charge. Good. Execute Protocol Thermopylae. The human ships suddenly scattered in different directions, moving so fast that the Hectarian vessels could not keep up. The aliens found themselves chasing shadows, wasting fuel and energy on pursuit courses that led nowhere. And then they realized where the humans had led them. They were in the middle of an asteroid field, surrounded by rocks and debris from old mining operations. Too late, they saw the weapons platforms hidden among the asteroids, dormant until now. The platforms activated all at once. They were small, unmanned, and cheap to build. But there were hundreds of them, and they created a crossfire that the Hectarian ships could not escape. Lasers, missiles, and kinetic weapons struck from every direction. Ship after ship exploded or went dark. Zarkun, still alive on his crippled flagship, watched his fleet die around him. The humans had used his own aggression against him, had led him into a trap so obvious he should have seen it coming. But his contempt for the humans had made him blind. When the battle ended, only 12 Hectarian ships remained functional. The rest were destroyed or disabled, floating in space like the corpses of great beasts. Jake's face appeared on Zarkun's emergency screen. The human captain looked tired but not pleased. "Commander Zarkun, the battle is over. You have lost. I am allowing the 12 surviving ships to leave. You will take them back to your empire. You will tell your leaders what happened here. You will tell them that Admiral Vector was right." "You should have listened to the warning," Jake continued. "We did not want this war. We tried to avoid it. But you came anyway, and now thousands of your people are dead or captured. That is on you, not us." "If you or any other species attacks us again," Jake said, his voice growing cold, "we will not show mercy. We will track down your homeworlds. We will show you what total war means. Humans have spent 10,000 years learning how to kill each other. We are very, very good at it. Do not give us a reason to use that knowledge against you." The screen went dark. Zarkun sat in the darkness of his ruined ship, shame and defeat crushing him more thoroughly than any weapon could. He had been so certain of victory. Now he had to return home and admit that a dozen human ships had destroyed his fleet of 120. The galaxy would hear about this. The great Hectarian Empire, humbled by Deathworlders, and every species would remember the lesson. Do not attack humans unless you are ready for war, unlike anything you have ever experienced. The meeting hall was carved from blue crystal that glowed with its own light. Hundreds of alien beings sat in curved rows, their strange bodies casting odd shadows on the walls. Some had scales, others had fur, and many had features that would seem impossible to human eyes. This was the Grand Council, where the most powerful species in the galaxy made decisions that affected billions of lives. Admiral Vector walked to the center of the hall. He was tall and thin, with 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern on his face. His skin was gray and smooth, and when he moved it was with the careful grace of someone who had lived through many battles. The room fell silent as he raised one of his long arms. "I come before you today with a warning," Vector said. His voice came out as clicks and whistles, but a small device on his chest translated the sounds into words everyone could understand. 3 months ago, my fleet found a new species. They come from a planet called Earth. They call themselves humans." Someone in the crowd laughed. It was Counselor Prithna, a being covered in green scales that caught the light. She leaned forward in her seat, her eyes narrowing. "Another new species? Admiral, why are you wasting our time? We discover new civilizations every year. What makes these humans so special?" Vector's expression grew dark. His 4 eyes seemed to dim. "I lost 47 ships when we met them. 47 warships destroyed by only 12 human vessels. My fleet barely escaped. These are not ordinary beings. These are Deathworlders." The laughter stopped. The word Deathworlder sent a chill through the hall. Most species in the galaxy came from gentle planets where the weather was calm and the gravity was light. Food grew easily and predators were rare. But Deathworlds were different. They were planets where everything tried to kill you, where only the strongest and smartest survived. "Tell us about their planet," said High Chancellor Mektara. She was old with wrinkled skin and wise eyes. She had led the council for many years and had seen much in her long life. Vector pressed a button, and a hologram appeared in the air. It showed a blue and green sphere spinning slowly in space. "This is Earth. The gravity there would crush most of us. We would not be able to stand, much less walk. The air they breathe contains oxygen at levels that would poison our lungs. Their weather creates storms with winds strong enough to destroy our buildings. The ground shakes and splits open without warning. And that is just the planet itself." He pressed another button and images appeared. Massive creatures with huge teeth, tiny organisms that could kill with a single bite, plants covered in poison. Humans evolved alongside predators that hunt in packs using complex strategies. They developed intelligence not to build art or music first, but to survive. Every human alive today is descended from billions of years of the most brutal natural selection in the known galaxy. The council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Some whispered to each other in their native languages. But the worst part is not their bodies, Vector continued. It is how they think. Humans do not fight the way we do. When we go to war, we line up our ships and exchange fire until one side surrenders. Humans do not surrender. They use tricks and traps. They study their enemies and find weaknesses. They adapt faster than any species I have encountered. In my battle with them, they changed their tactics 3 times in 1 hour. 3 times! My tactical computers could not keep up. He paused, looking around the room at all the faces watching him. I am recommending that we contact the humans immediately. We should offer them friendship, trade agreements, and a place in our community. We should do everything possible to ensure they never see us as enemies. Another figure stood up. This was Fleet Commander Zarkun of the Hectarian Empire. He was large and covered in armored plates that clicked together when he moved. His people had conquered many worlds and feared nothing. With respect, Admiral Vector, your defeat says more about Zalthrian weakness than human strength. My empire has conquered 73 star systems. We have never met an enemy we could not defeat through superior numbers and firepower. Vector's eyes flashed with anger. You are a fool, Zarkun. I have sent you recordings of the battle. Study them before you speak. Humans do not care about your numbers. They will find a way to turn your strength into weakness. Empty threats, Zarkun said, waving a clawed hand dismissively. If these humans are so dangerous, they should learn to fear the Hectarian Empire. Perhaps a show of force will teach them their place in the Galactic Order. If you attack them, you will regret it, Vector warned. His voice was steady but cold. I have fought in hundreds of battles over my long career. I have faced enemies that terrified young soldiers. But humans are different. They do not just want to win. They want to make sure you never threaten them again. If you attack them, they will not stop until your fleet is destroyed and your empire understands the cost of making them an enemy. High Chancellor Mektara raised her hand for silence. This council will consider Admiral Vector's warning carefully. We will review the battle recordings and make a decision about how to proceed. For now, I recommend that no military forces approach human space without explicit authorization from this council. But as the meeting ended, and the council members filed out of the hall, Zarkun was already making plans. He gathered his military advisors in a private chamber and gave his orders. Prepare the fleet. We will teach these humans respect. Assemble 120 ships. That should be more than enough to handle 12 human vessels. His advisors bowed and hurried away to carry out his commands. Zarkun stood alone in the chamber, looking out at the stars through a massive window. He had built his reputation on swift, decisive victories. He would not let some unknown species damage his standing in the galaxy. What Zarkun did not understand, what his pride would not let him see, was that Admiral Vector had not been exaggerating. Humans were not just another species to be conquered and forgotten. They were something new in the galaxy, something dangerous and unpredictable. 6 weeks later, the Hectarian fleet departed for human space. Zarkun stood on the bridge of his flagship, surrounded by his best officers and most advanced technology. He felt confident, almost bored. This would be a simple mission. Attack, destroy, return home victorious. He had no idea that he was leading his fleet toward the worst defeat in Hectarian history. He could not imagine that within days everything he believed about warfare would be proven wrong. And he certainly could not have predicted that his actions would change the entire galaxy forever. The warning had been given. The fool had ignored it. Now the consequences would teach a lesson that the galaxy would never forget.